Hi, I'm Paul Clifton. My wife Vicki and I are from Independence, Kansas. And long about February of this year, Joy Budenseek came to our church and spoke about a missions trip for London 2012 to the Olympic Games to hand out 500,000 books, literature, to try to spread the gospel. My wife Vicki and I have wanted to be involved in some missions work for years, and we've just never had the opportunity, and God spoke to our heart and started opening doors. He tested our faith, and God proved that He could do it, and so we've had this great privilege of being here and sharing these books. It has been quite a challenge. There has been some obstacles, of course, that we've had to conquer, but God has been here in a very real way, in a very special way. And we've tried different tactics. My wife and I, Vicki and I, have tried different tactics on handing out the books. And we started off a little timid, and it wasn't real easy at the beginning. And I'm not a person that's a very good salesperson. But as we went along, we found out that there was different things that would work. And one of the things we found out that is a better idea not to have sunglasses on. We're used to wearing sunglasses out, and sometimes she has a hard time with the sun and she has to have them on, but otherwise we'll try to take the sunglasses off or flip them up on her head. When we hand them out, we tried to, at one point we were trying to make good eye contact with them. We tried to have them in both hands. When we just had a book in one hand, it didn't seem to work very well. When people realized that we had several books to hand out, then they would take them. Another thing we found out is, instead of being on the side of the paths or wherever these people are, instead of just being on the sidelines and handing them out, we would just get right in the middle, and sometimes we were giving them from both hands. I'd have a stack on this hand and a book in this hand, and they'd peel them off this, and they'd take them from this hand, and we would go through. Sometimes we were kind of tag team, and Vicki would stack up the books and have books ready, and every time I'd run low, I'd grab them, because people would kind of come in waves. And we found that, again, people are a lot like sheep. If you get a group of people coming towards you, and they're just a group, it's not that they're all associated or related, but it's just people kind of cluster up, and it depends on where you are. Sometimes they wait for a traffic light or whatever, and then they just come, or some event will open up and they just come pouring out. And we found out that in these groups, sometimes 5 to 20 people, maybe more than that, if the first 2 or 3 people don't take them, then it's really hard to get it started in that group. But if the first few people start taking it, you can just shell them out just about as fast as you can hand them out. The other way that we've tried and has worked very well is, in certain places where it wasn't quite so busy, we would stand across the street from each other. That way we could catch sidewalks on both sides of the street, and we'd try to catch them going each direction. I did hand some to some police officers, or I tried to, and at one particular place I had one police officer take one, and then later on I was trying to hand one to a black guy, and I had already tried to hand it to another police officer, and this black guy comes by and he goes, "You're not very observant." He said, "You tried to give one to a police officer." Well, I didn't say it, but I thought it. You know, he didn't know that I'd already given one to a police officer. We have given them to just about every walk of life, from very elegant looking people, wealthy looking people, business looking people, to more of a lower class or poor people, about everything in between. People that you would never expect that would be interested, and they may not be interested once they read it, but we don't know how far these are going and how much it'll reach into their hearts. It's been a real privilege, We had a real wonderful Sunday afternoon. We got to meet up with Swedish people, and they had people over here from all over the place, and some German people, and we had a time of fellowship with them, and we began singing, and God's presence was so powerful, so rich, and so real, and it really gave the whole group just a burst of energy and a renewed inspiration about this. There have been different people along the way that have asked about what the book is about. And at first we were very hesitant to say that, you know, it had anything to do with God or the gospel. But as time goes on, we have found out that we can share it. And I had a man the other day that he came up to my wife, and we were at a very busy corridor, and in just a few minutes we had handed out probably 200 or 300 of them, probably in within about 20-minute span. And I was getting down, and this black guy came over and was talking to Vicky for a while, and I ran completely out, so I went over to talk to him, and what had happened is he began to tell her that he was a Christian, and he wanted a book, and he wanted some to give to his neighbors. So she gave him a handful of books. So when I ran out, we were all out. He had this handful of books, and we're talking to him. And as we're talking to him, he started giving them to the people. And we would hand them out, and we would say, have a good day, or have a good afternoon. Once in a while, I'd say, have a great day. And a little bit timid, you know, about too much religious emphasis. And this black man, he was handing the books down as the people went by, and he would say, God bless you, God bless you. It was really interesting. He told me that he got saved in 1980 under Billy Graham's ministry, and God has kept him all this time, and he has got involved in youth ministry in prison, youth in prison, and he's lived in London all of his life. He said it's a very, very dark place. It's hard here, but God has helped him, and he was inspired and encouraged by what we were doing, and he in turn encouraged us at the end. And we were at this corridor where there's a set of stairs, there's a handrail in the middle and 2 handrails on the side, and we were dead in the center of that. So we got people passing on the right and the left all around us, and lots of people. And I said, why don't we have prayer before you go? And his name was Glenn, so I put my arm around Glenn, he put his arm around me, and I began to pray, and God was very close. And when I got done, I thought he was going to leave, and I looked up and I realized all of a sudden he was praying away. So I bowed my head again, and he prayed for quite a length of time before parting, and he gave us his email information so we could be in contact with him. We've met some very interesting things, and one of the things that happened today is we were working in this huge area, and lots and lots of people, but it was an area that's designated that they allow any kind of religious information, tracts and literature, and so we had lots of competition. We had Muslim, we had Islam, we had veggie people, vegetarian people. There was Gideons there handing out Bibles. There was a man there who had a megaphone on, and he's preaching through this microphone system. We had another lady that I saw, and she was preaching as well. Very interesting venue, very interesting situation. But at one point, some of these people come over, and they would try to intimidate us or try to crowd us in. And today I was working with Vicky wasn't able to be there, and I was teaming up with Michelle, and she was handing out over to the side where there was an escalator and some stairs, and she was over the side, and I was feeding books to her and handing them out and then feed them, and she'd yell. I could hear everyone say, Paul, Paul, or run over there and fill her hand up, and she would spread them out in this hand and hold them out in this hand, and people were taking them off both hands. And she told me, she said that one of them went over and crowded into her space and got between her and the escalator and the stairs. And I said, do you want help? And she said, I do. I said, well, let's go. So I went over with her, and we stood just behind this lady handing out this, and I believe she was Muslim. She was handing out this literature, and we just started shelling out the books. And I had to leave for a little bit. And when I came back, and I told her, and I felt very impressed to say, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. It was just so real. And God just helped us to hand out books, and the books were just surrounding this girl. And I had to leave for a while, and I came back, and Michelle said, some of them workers there, some of the security people asked the Muslims to leave that area where they were because they were crowding too much around the bottom of the stairs, but didn't ask them just to move back to where we were, but asked to move them further away. And so they had to completely leave this little corner where Michelle was working. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. And then they would start filtering back in and trying to crowd in, and God seemed like just send different people that would come and engage these people, the Muslim and the Islam people both, with conversation about Jesus being the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords and the Son of God. And that would distract him, so they couldn't come over and distract us anymore. And it was just wonderful. And as I'm shuttling books to Michelle and handing out books, every once in a while I'd go over, and this one particular guy, he pulled up his phone and he had the Bible on his phone, obviously it was a smartphone, and he would shell out scriptures and and I would come by and I would say, what about this and what about this? It was just wonderful. God helped us in a tremendous way today. The other thing that was amazing is we had to unload the semi, and semi brought in 24 pallets of books, and I guess that would be it would have totaled, I guess, 250,000 books. And about halfway through, somewhere in about halfway point in unloading that truck, I got to the point where I thought, we're just not going to be able to make it. Our energy, our strength is just not going to hold up. And somehow it was just God stepped in and gave us the energy, and we went through that whole truck. We emptied that whole truck, 250,000 books in about an hour and 40 minutes, I would say, something like that. And tonight Joe told us, and Joe's been a wonderful leader, and it's been a privilege to be here, and I just want to say I'm so very thankful that God worked it out, that we could be a part of this great master plan.